Okay, it's time to make an update about the tubes. We're going to repeat a lot of things, but this is the current situation with our tubes in early 2020. So let's get started.
First thing, for new people in the community, what is it?
Okay, so these are plastic tubes. They are very lightweight, solid, you cannot break them. Okay, you can throw them around, you can travel with those, you'll never break them. They are squishable. What's the value of this tube now?
So yeah, lightweight, super easy to manipulate, easy to travel with. They don't emit light, so in order to create light shape, you need a flashlight.
You simply insert the flashlight inside the tube, turn it on, and you hold everything with the clip. This is how you get a solid grip. And if you're very new to this, you're going to need a pair of triggers like this one. So you keep one in your hand, and there is one on the camera. Trigger is connected to the camera using that kind of cable. And then the camera is on a tripod. Your subject, Kim, is over there. You keep your trigger in your hand, you take your tube, you go behind your model, you press a button, make a shape, and then you release the button. So it's very simple.
Yeah, so you need to be on bulb mode. It's a long exposure for the duration of the trace of light, basically.
Exactly. We have many colors on the table. Look at that. So the one that I'm using to start the night is always the Milky White. It's the brightest one that I have on this table. It's a diffused tube, so it's very, very bright, and it's neutral also, so it works well at the beginning of the blue hour when you need a lot of light. But then when it gets a bit darker, I'm using the orange, which has been probably my main tool for the past 3-4 years. So this is how we created all of those images for the past years. I have a lot of holographic tubes, and they're working great mostly in the studio. I use them in the studio at least, but the sugar one can also work really well outdoors. I have these two samples right there. And also the pink is great outdoors, especially if you're shooting against the sunset. Again, many examples. And what's new, if we compare to the previous video of this kind that we made, is the Olympic kit that we didn't have back then, I think. I'm not sure.
It was like the beginning.
It was the beginning, yeah, but
the beginning of it.
But now I always travel with those. This is a very important update for me, especially the rose bronze. So this one here, I created so many images using this one over the past months, and it's great, especially when you're working late at night, when you're shooting with a very cold white balance value. This is great color. And the pearl one, we found that it works well in the snow. So
yeah, for the past year and a half, because it's only been about a year and a half that we are actually selling those. It changed quite a bit, but I think that at the moment with these 15 different colors, it's going to be good for a while.
This covers everything from outdoors to studio work. Okay, next.
So that leads us to more details about the tubes themselves, the length of the tubes.
This is 41 inches long. These are our long tubes, but we also have the small one, 5.5 inches long, and you can stack them together using the extender. And doing so, you don't have any gap, so now you have 46.5 inches long, and that's easier to travel with these small ones, and then you just put your small tubes in another bag or you stack them, and super good to travel. So let's do the same with the orange, just to show the sample. So when you stack them, there is no gap, but you can extend it, and then you make your tube even longer, and you can create that very beautiful separation. Here's an example using this exact technique. So this part is going to stay orange, this part is going to be a bit bluish if you're using colder white balance, and then starts back in orange. So it's a great way to extend your tube, but you can also mix with different colors. So if we take the same principle, but we're going to use the white one in a rainbow, a long white and a small rainbow, and using this you can create that kind of images. So next thing, the black tube, there's no light coming out of this. Okay, as you can see the light is on, there's no light. This is simply an extension, so we're going to use the extender, always the same extender, to connect two tubes together. And can you take the pearl one?
Yeah.
So now we have light only at the end of the tube on this small part, and this is what allows us to create those tiny lines, the edge of a circle, of an empty circle. You could put your light inside the small tube, but it's harder to make that kind of shapes and you'd be visible. So it's a way for you to be able to hide yourself and to have the light further away from you, the light painter, and to light up your subject. So there are so many things you can do using this technique with the black tubes. And here are a few examples, which is leading us to the sliders. So sliders, it's kind of similar, but they are sliced on that part, so it goes over any of the tube. So yeah, you took the alien one. That's a good thing, because we have a good example using the alien. If I turn on the flashlight, you see that this is only blocking the light at these two places. So this is how we create some sort of gaps in the tube, and this is great sometimes when you don't want to have like a full length of the tube.
Yeah, and obviously like one of the advantages is that you can slide them, so create like different patterns as you go. And you can also use one to cover like the base of the tube if you don't want like
the hot spot
at
the base. With any of the tubes, you can get them like this, like full 360 light all around, but you can also have a black cover option on which we add like just a black piece of tape. You can do it by yourself using masking tape, but it's also an option that we have on the store. And the difference is that,
as you can see, there's a really opaque black vinyl in the back, so it makes the light more directional, and it has some advantages when you shoot.
So especially for the light painter, the black cover helps you to disappear as there's no light facing you, so you can clearly see the difference. If I point the light at me, then I light up myself, and then I light up the subject. So it helps sometimes to have this, but there are some disadvantages. We have a full video about that.
Yeah.
Okay, you can also combine two tubes to make stripes, and the way I do it these days is to have two tubes that are similar. I put two flashlights, I hold the whole thing, put an elastic on top. This is very good, especially when you put the cap on top. And to create stripes, you're going to turn on the lights, and one is going to be on strobe. So doing this, one flashlight on continuous and one on strobe, you're going to be able to make those beautiful stripes. And you can also just use the two side by side to get an even brighter tube. So if you want to start even earlier, the blue hour, that's another trick. I don't do that these days because these flashlights are so bright that it's fine, you don't really need that. But also, if I go back to a single tube, you can create this other kind of strobe pattern by just going on strobe. Great. The caps have evolved a lot over the past months, and I want to have like a single cap that does pretty much everything, and this is it. We've been training with this one for probably 3 or 4 months now, and it's just perfect. A great evolution of the prototypes we've been doing since like a year and a half. So it has everything. At the bottom you have this reflector that you can screw or unscrew, and you're going to use that if you want to have light bouncing at the top of the tube. This is helpful if you don't want you have to have your tube to fade out at the top of it. So at the Blue Hour, I pretty much always use this thing. But when you want to have like a more subtle ending on your tube, then you can simply remove it, and then it's just black. So gonna have a beautiful light that stops at the end of the tube. And you can also remove the top part, and you can use a penny if it gets a bit too hard. So this part here is only to block the light, but you have to take it off if you want to use other accessories. So we have a bunch of holes. We'll make another video only about this, but you can put feathers using zip ties, so it's gonna hold like this, and with a feather you can create that kind of images, but also sparklers. So if I put the cap on top of the tube, and we're going to use the elastic just to solidify the whole thing, and then you can insert the sparkler inside. So there's a hole specifically made for this, so you can just turn on your sparkler. And as it's Kim's birthday today, Hawaii. Ouf. Oui, c'est fort. Last thing, the bag. I would take it, but the cat looks comfortable, so. So this one is 42 inches, which fits those two, but I have also a 48 inches long bag that fit the tubes stacked, the long and the small tubes stacked together. So when we travel by car, I take the long one so I don't have to stack all my tubes. But when I travel, I prefer to have a smaller tube. It's a bit easier to travel with this one. So it has a rubber back so you can drop your pouch in the snow, in the mud. Won't affect anything, and two big side pockets for the feathers. And what else? Can fit a bunch of tubes, and that's it for this. That's it for this video.
So that's it for where we're at with the tubes.
Kim, why are we doing this?
You mean?
All of that. What's the point?
For fun.
Tell
To play outside, to create, to build a community, to share, to see what people create with the same technique, to spread, I don't know, like the creative fun of it, and to be outdoors.
Don't you feel the motivation of just pushing more about like the tools we can provide and the tutorials we can give, so more people can have access to this technique, not just about the tools that we show on the table, but how to make the tools also. So all of that feels to me like this is what always pushing me to just make more video. Like, none of us were born to make video, to talk to a camera, to talk on a microphone, and to sell things, to make products. It was not part of our DNA, but here we are doing this.
Yeah, but the reason that drives us to do it is not about selling these. It's about being able to share what we do and being able to make it accessible for others. That's what I feel.
So either have you guys, either give access to you guys to our exact tools that we're using, or to show you how you can get close by making your own if you're not in a place where you can get those.
And I feel like it's always a ongoing project. So this is where we're at after a year and a half of prototyping and of developing these tools to make them accessible for others. But I don't know, like in a year from now, where we're going to be able to bring it and to bring it with others helping. You know what I mean? Like to. So yeah, it's exciting to be part of that and to witness how it's evolving. I don't know. I feel like this is one of the things that stimulate us, both of us, a lot. It's like how can we explain this, or how can we push this a bit further, or how can we, I don't know, apply this and make it, give it a little twist, or it's
Okay, it's still sunny outdoors. Let's get out of here.
Minou, tu veux te monter?